like talking about it tomorrow morning, called Sextacular, but so we found it's a way to combine multiple components of sexuality in one event. So it's like a different activity for essentially like a mental health fair, but specific to sexuality. So we're talking about all components of anatomy, STI prevention, safer sex supplies, how to just breaking it down to how to use an external condom.
Yes.
We've also found students don't know, and I think sometimes we think that is, oh yeah, everyone can figure it out, whatever, but
yeah,
they don't. So we also talk about consent, healthy relationships, contraception, pleasure, and intimacy. So kind of a way to include all types of components of sexuality and parts of being a sexual being.
that's amazing to keep it holistic like that. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a healthy relationships faction of our organization too. The sexual health and healthy relationships are almost combined. We meet together every week because they're just so inherent. The way you behave sexually and just the pure anatomy or the disease risk of it need to go hand in hand. We can't separate them because as humans, those are combined within us, absolutely. How about some of those barriers we talked about earlier to vaccination, like parental disapproval or cost or not really knowing about it, not thinking you need it? Any ideas on how we could reach students particularly?
If like the bill goes to the house where the parents pay tuition,
Yes.
not have it as like a visit or something, and don't put like the HPV shot, because if the parent gets that on the bill, then it could affect, like if the students don't want that to happen,
Yeah.
then it could serve as a barrier for students. So
Absolutely.
you have it as like student health visit or seeing the doctor, something that did happen so the way you code it
Yes.
in the bill that goes to the parents.
Yes, no, that's absolutely wonderful. At USC, we have sort of an online payment portal that your student health bills, any that you have, will go through, and it just said student health services. If you said, Mom, I had the flu, not Mom, I got the HPV vaccine. I mean, have that conversation if you can, please do. But absolutely, that confidentiality will literally deter students if it's not there from getting birth control, from getting safer sex supplies, anything of that nature. That's so important for college students who are still figuring all this stuff out. Any other ideas? Yeah.
So something interesting is that the past couple of weeks, there's been new rules that I don't know like for certain about what they are, and I actually just heard our information with such numbers.
Cool.
They're increasing the vaccination range to 45.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thanks
So,
for telling me.
so I mean, like just exposing that to people, because I know a lot of the mindset is that we get people while they're young,
Yeah.
and so that they're like that they are stay away from the disease. But I'm thinking that the new opinion is going to be that just no matter what, you get vaccinated. That this prevention is
Yeah.
really ideal.
That's so cool. No, that's amazing. And again, it goes with that research component, which I'm going to talk about in a couple of slides, the more scientific side of things, and how it's so essential to couple that scientific information with, hey, we know you're a human and we want to protect you and have your best interests at heart. Yeah, thank you all for your feedback on that. It's been really interesting to hear from your own universities. Okay, so getting into the scientific side of things, along with my passion in sexual health, another way I pursue it is through science. So I've actually gotten involved in HPV research throughout my time in my undergraduate career. I'll explain what this crazy ball-looking thing is in a second, I promise. But the background of my research is that we've noticed that not all individuals clear HPV from their body at the same rate, or clear it at all. So again, a virus is going to be in your body unless your body naturally fights it off from your immune system. And a lot of women or people that are infected with HPV will clear it at some point. And that might be another reason why you might not even know you have an HPV infection, because you have a really stinking good immune system that knocks it out for you real quick. So with this idea, we wanted to see if there was a sort of genetic reason or genetic predisposition in people that took longer to clear the virus. Because the longer you take to clear the virus, the higher cancer risk you're going to be at. So we looked at this gene called P53, which is essentially a cancer regulation gene. If P53 gets messed up, your cells go crazy and grow crazily, and that's how cancer develops, particularly cervical cancer or really dangerous lethal cancers like that. So we looked at one particular, I don't know if you remember from Bio 101, nucleotides, the things that encode, I see some looks, I know, the things means that the sort of language of your DNA, A, T, C, or G, those are the nucleotides. Essentially, these nucleotides help build your proteins, which are essential for your body's proper function. And if they get wacky, you might get cancer. So we looked at this one specific spot on this gene where some people make the amino acid, which is essentially something that makes a protein, arginine or proline. Arginine is normal. Your body likes it. You have a less risk of cancer. Wonderful. But proline is sort of, I'm taking biochemistry right now. We had to memorize all the amino acids. That was horrible. But proline is sort of circular in structure and will just make the cell go crazy if it's there. So we wanted to see if people who encoded for proline would have a higher risk of cancer upon infection with HPV, or have the probability to take longer to clear HPV from their body, therefore increasing their risk of cancer. So what I did here, or essentially what we're going to look at, are certain populations having more proline, therefore being at higher risk of cancer. And the way we did this, we specifically focused on African Americans and European Americans, which I'll tell you how we did it in just a second. So my methods, this is where it gets kind of funky and where I have a lot of fun facts about myself. I have studied foreskins an ungodly amount of time because the model we use for this are neonatal foreskins because it's made of the exact same tissue as the human cervix. You can't go around cutting out women's cervixes. That's just not how research would work. The IRB would have some things to say. Where neonatal foreskin, every week I take my little lunchbox that has its biohazard sticker on it, haul myself up to the maternity and delivery unit, and get foreskin samples. And from that, I would racially categorize my samples as either European American, African American, or indeterminate. This was all visually because I could not get any patient information due to HIPAA, and I also, that made me feel good that people's privacy is protected as well. From this foreskin tissue, I would culture the cells from it, and then I would actually sequence the DNA to see if they encoded proline or arginine, and then correlate that to see if the African American samples had more proline. This fun little picture right here, which was kind of the highlight of my summer, it's what's called a spheroid. So it's when cells aggregate together and form a sphere. It's almost precancerous. And I found this happening in my cells naturally that encoded for proline. So it was super exciting to see that this link really is solid between proline and increased cancer risk. Okay, so here's some bloopers as well from my research experience. But my results were that African American samples overwhelmingly encoded for proline, which was crazy because this provides an explanation as to why HPV and cervical cancer as a result of HPV infection is more prevalent in the African American population. There's this disgusting stigma that because African Americans are thought sometimes to be more promiscuous or less conscious of their sexual health, that's the only reason why they have higher rates of HPV or cervical cancer. That is not true. This is a genetic basis for why people of African American descent may be more predisposed to having easier damage with HPV infection. So genetic screening for proline could improve preventative care. Take a cheek swab of someone, sequence that gene, and you see, okay, you have proline, we're going to start giving you pap smears at age maybe 16 instead of 21, and we're going to be very conscious to check and make sure that your cervix or your reproductive organs in general are high functioning. So some bloopers here, because research is a long road. This is me after I took this lovely picture of my ball of cells, and the caption says, when that ball of cells is your biggest accomplishment of the summer, because I spent a lot of really hot and steamy days in this really tiny cell culture room. And this is me saying, chilling with chunks of foreskin, because chunks of foreskin became very close friends of mine throughout this project. But I'm actually converting this research into my senior thesis project this year, so I'm very excited to hopefully get published and continue this scientific education side of things as well. That concludes my presentation. I would love to hear any questions you all have. Thank you so much for your feedback and attention. It means a lot that you are all here today to care about this topic. Thanks. Any questions? Yeah.